Welcome to Tuesday, listeners. Our Tuesday daily podcast is now all about the Sewcialists with the Australian Socialist representative, Chloe Reid. Welcome again, Chloe.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's great to see you again.
How was your week?
It's very good now. Yeah, last week was a bit hit and miss. This week, I think, gotten into a groove in yourself.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I also thought it was lovely seeing all of the virtual frocktails happening on Saturday around the world. I didn't take part because I forgot about it, but it was lovely. I just saw them all coming in on Instagram and it was great.
It was inspiring to see everyone's take on it too. The Sewcialists. Now, last week, I think we sort of touched on how the Sewcialists run.
Yeah.
So would you like to give us a little bit more detail this morning so that our listeners can hear all the work that goes on behind the scenes to bring us, the Sewcialists, and all of the challenges and pieces that you do?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing I'll say is that for about a year after the reboot, I think it was close to a year, maybe 9 months, Gillian ran the whole thing on her own. So she had some people who would help her out with posts, but she didn't have any of this team behind her. And now we quite often look back and say we have no idea actually how she did that at all.
Exactly.
So we've got pretty organised, I think, in the last couple of years. So the first thing is there are kind of 3 or 4, depending on how you count them, permanent editors. So that's Gillian, who obviously runs the whole thing.
Yes.
There's myself. There's Becky Jo, who is American-based. And then there's also Anne, who is actually Gillian's sister. She is like an honorary editor and also runs all of the copy editing. So the people who go through and check posts for grammar and consistency and make sure posts don't have, finish in the middle of sentences and make sure they have a featured image. So she runs the whole of that side of it too. So she's pretty invaluable. So the 4 of us experimented for a while with using Slack, which I think I mentioned last time.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, which is it's a tool for having sort of different threads of conversation. So you have different topics like theme months or like the Who We Are series or just about planning or just about editing. So it lets you have conversations that are slightly more structured than if you were just all messaging each other all the time. And so within that, we've got the 4 of us. And then, as you know, I think I said last time, every 6 months we have a group of temporary editors who join us.
Yes.
To help out and to coordinate series and to do various things. So they are Amanda, Kerry, Charlotte, Amelia and Sophie. And so they're invaluable for just giving a bit of different perspective to the 4 of us, giving us fresh ideas, a new take on something, coordinating stuff. And they're brilliant. The group we've got at the minute are super enthusiastic. They're really kind of, I guess, cohesive as a group. And we're really lucky to have them with us. And then, as I mentioned, there's also a copy editors group. And as I said, the people who do the kind of checking of posts for formatting and those kinds of things, ably run by Anne. And they're also amazing. People who can kind of proofread something.
Yes.
And not only tell you when something's spelt wrong, but tell you when the meaning isn't quite right is amazing.
Exactly. You do need to have an understanding not only of grammar, but also the content. And the sewing community content is very different. And it not that it's different, good or bad, but it is specialised. So, yeah, you do need to have that level of understanding.
And one of our things, as you know, because our mission is about inclusivity, we often have people write for us for whom English isn't the first language. And you want to straddle this balance between making sure the post is readable and not getting to this level of kind of glossiness where you lose the kind of sense of that person and how they would speak if you were talking to them and those kinds of things.
Yes.
And so that group do a fantastic job of kind of navigating all of those things in the editing.
When I first started doing some English translations for Vera, who does Sakotan patterns, I tried to then say something back to her and use Google Translate, and it was an absolute failure. And we talk about it all the time, and it's like, no, and you do need to have that there, don't you? You need to have that team.
So that's the team. There's a lot of chatting on Slack, like well over 1,000 messages a week of people. And it really varies from kind of really focused, should we do this? Yes, we could do that. I'll organise this. Okay, that's great. To stuff about like, what's your favourite type of chocolate? Because we're based all over the world. And so I think we span the US, Canada, the UK, Hong Kong, Japan and Australia. And so there is one period of the day where pretty much everyone's online. And then there's also these conversations that happen when you're asleep and you come back and there's kind of 53 messages in a thread that you have to unpick and work through and go, what just happened? Oh, well, people got into a debate about something and come in at the end. So that takes some getting used to as well, how noisy the group can be sometimes.
That's really good because, as you said, you've got different people with different takes. So, yeah, when you wake up in the morning and you read all the threads.
Yes, that's right. And then the other person that we have with us, who I thought I would talk a little bit about today, is Gabby. And so Gabby is Lady Grift on Instagram, and she runs our fitting series, and also which became Dear Gabby as a series after that. And I think one of the reasons I thought I should talk about her today is we're heading into, for many of us, what will be a kind of long weekend or a holiday weekend, depending on where you live in the world, for Easter. And in many places, there will be some sort of school holidays coming up. There may be a bit of downtime, plus the fact that we're all stuck indoors. And Gabby's posts are kind of what we refer to as a slow burn. The posts where we say, hey, everybody, I was wondering, idly, do you change the thread in your serger to match the colour of the garment, or do you just leave it how it is? They actually get heaps of people responding kind of straight away. So they're very kind of intense and then they disappear. Gabby's posts are actually one of the most generous set of resources I think I've seen out there on fitting. She's a technical fashion designer and fit person. So she's someone who a ready-to-wear brand would say, this is what we want. And then she would do fitting to various fit models. And there's a whole bunch of posts about how that process works. And I won't do it justice, so I won't talk about that particularly.
And that's why you've got Gabby.
That's right.
Yes.
And so she's gone through, this is what you need to think about when you're fitting different types of garments. And so there's a whole series on here's fitting a skirt block, here's fitting a bodice, those kinds of things if you look back through the Gabby content. And then she moved to Dear Gabby, where people got to ask her questions about things.
Yes.
So her most recent one went up on Monday last, which was about fitting for scoliosis. But she's also had all sorts of kind of, how do I grade between sizes and how do I work through my particular fit issue, as well as some other content in there. So there's about, I think, 23 posts now, maybe 24. And so when you're kind of starting to think through, as all of us sewists, I think, get to a point where we say, I really want to focus in on fit now. I've done kind of pretty dresses and cool fabric and got very excited about the latest pattern, but actually what I really want is to get the fitting so well that I can make things again and again. I think those resources would be well worth people going back and having a look at. So I'd encourage people to do that.
And it makes sense that you've called it a slow burn, because you're right, where you've got to have your initial understanding of how to construct, pick fabric, pick patterns.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I want to make this fit me better. And I think the Dear Gabby series is going to be really well utilised by the sewing community.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also a headspace thing, right? So in the middle of a busy week, I actually just don't want to read about how you tweak fit the shoulder of a something or other. But on a Sunday morning, when I'm kind of thinking about sewing, but I'm not quite ready to start something, they're really great to go through and have a look, particularly if you've got a garment in mind that you think you could improve the fit for.
That's great. Yeah.
She's also lovely. She's so generous. She's one of those kind of, just hit me up on Instagram and I'll help you kind of person, which, given this is her job, is kind of pretty amazing.
And look, it's great that you've been able to bring Gabby into the fold. That really is being inclusive around shapes and fitting.
Yeah, definitely. And she's got such a great attitude towards that. It's kind of, for her, it's a very neutral, very unemotional exercise of how do I make this fit? And so that, for me, is kind of perfect. So before we go, I was also just going to flag the posts we've got coming up, if that's useful.
Oh, yes. So, especially with the long weekend coming up for a lot of people.
We might go for 4 posts this week, but we haven't quite decided. But we've certainly got the roundup of the mini challenge that we've just had, which has been fantastic. Like, Sew Your Birth Year has just been a delight to watch come through. My particular favourite was someone who was dressed all in purple because the movie The Colour Purple came out the year they were born.
Yes.
And so they'd taken that as inspiration.
That's exciting.
I thought that was just great. I'm very literal. I'm like, I have to pick something from 1977 and make it, whereas they'd taken the inspiration to exactly where they wanted to be. So that was great. So we've got that. We've got, as I said, a couple of posts on things that are sort of related to sewing, but in the time of COVID virus. So we've got one about connecting virtually and also one about teaching kids to sew, given holidays are coming up and also bored and stuck indoors. And then probably also an interview. We haven't done an interview for a while with kind of a pattern designer or a person. So we're probably going to have one of those coming up this week as well.
I think that's a lot for people to look forward to this weekend. Well, this week and this weekend. Something for the mind, something for the family.
That's right. And then they can, if they get bored, they can go back through Dear Gabby and work out how to fit everything.
Oh, yeah. That would be fantastic. Thank you for walking us through the array of people that you have working behind the scenes in Sewcialists. From a user's perspective, it always looks like, everything's on time, really well done. And you've just explained why.
That's true. There is still sometimes some scrambling, often because I go, oh, we were meant to do this for this day. But yeah, it's good. There are enough checks and balances that I think in the past maybe 2.5 years, we've never missed a post. So we post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we haven't missed a single one in however long we've been together as the three of us, which is pretty good achievement.
Well, it demonstrates how the teams, people who are there, the people who are in there for a certain period of time, they love what they're doing for the sewing community within the Sewcialists, and the results are there because you've got lots of people who look forward to all of your posts and get involved with the challenges too.
Oh, yes, that has been fantastic.
That's great.
So thank you for having me again. We'll see you next week.
Thank you again for being here, Chloe, and for giving our listeners a bit of a rev up on a Tuesday morning.
No problem. Have a great week of sewing.
Enjoy your Tuesday, listeners. Bye.